Hello everyone, this is the Mind of Lilith, and thank you for joining me today as I take a deeper look into Queen Shiba's interview with Martell Holt. I will not be doing a full interview recap as there are plenty of other content creators who will do a great job discussing this interview, but I'm going to focus on specific segments of the interview that I believe can be used as teachable moments for myself and the audience. So I received at least 10 or 11 requests in my DMs to watch this interview with Queen Shiba and Martell. And initially I was like, oh my God, why? I've heard all Martell has to say. I've watched this interview with Dr. Heavenly, with Crystal XOXO, with, what's his name? Steve Harvey. Like, I've watched all his interviews and it's pretty much the same thing over and over again. So I did not expect to learn anything in this interview. And to Queen Shiba's credit, she asked some very salient questions that people wanted to know. But knowing Martell, I knew he was not going to answer those questions honestly. Even though I knew that I was not going to learn anything new from this interview because of Martell's lack of transparency and his defensiveness, I watched the interview with the intention of learning something. What can I learn from this interview? Not necessarily, listening to what Martell is saying, but the subtext of what he's saying, right? I listened to context and subtext. So when Martell is answering questions, I'm looking at his body language, the tone of his voice, his facial expressions, right? Martell has a few tells when he's lying. He clears his throat, he starts to look around, scratch behind his ear, say things of that nature, right? And at one point of the interview, I started dying laughing when he asked Queen Shiba, why would you say such a thing? Because Queen Shiba was like, Melody is not using her platform to attack you. And Martell was like, why would you say such a thing? But I'll explain why Martell believes that Melody is attacking him on social media or throwing subliminal jabs at him later on. Okay, so Queen Shiba asked some really good questions as she got Martell to warm up to her. From what I gleaned in the interview, the objective was not to attack Martell, but to establish some sort of working relationship with him as, somebody who interviews him occasionally from time to time, right? And someone who can get her other interviews with, social media people. Fine. She asked great questions. Martell kept being defensive, deflecting, lying, like just blatantly lying, okay? Just blatantly lying. Especially when it came to like the court case and the court documents and him asking for child support and, Martell Jr. saying that basically Martell abused him, put his hands on him, right? And Martell said something like, you can convince kids or you can manipulate children into saying what you want them to say. Similar to what he did during the divorce, when he had, his children in the car, his two daughters were talking about what Martell was doing for them in contrast to what Melody and her brother were doing for them. And this is when Tank was looking at him like, yo, I'm not doing this. But Malia and Mariah, they were both like reciting word for word in tandem, simultaneously, whatever script that Martell told them to say on social media. They were talking about Martell taking them to the pool and, all the things that he was doing with them. And again, the fact that they recited everything exactly the same way, in the same timing, in the same order, to me and many other people meant that Martell had coached the children into saying these things to make their mother look bad, right? Now, Martell may not have told them that was the reason why they were saying it, why he wanted them to recite the script, but he was using it against Melody to make Melody look like an unfit mother compared to him. And, again, throughout that whole scene, Tank was looking at them like, no, this is not cool. I'm not with this. Tank even told Iyama in season 2 that Martell was acting like a crazy man when he refused to let Melody leave the house. Melody was trying to get her things, put them in the car, and Martell kind of blew up in front of the kids. He didn't care about them then. He didn't care about their mental health and their emotional health then. No. Martell Jr. felt the need to protect his mother at 9, 10 years old. That's how abusive Martell was towards his mother. So Martell made it seem like Melody had no reason to file an emergency motion to stop Martell from seeing the kids after what Martell Jr. had told him about Martell abusing him. Martell lied on his own son. He lied on his own son and acted like his son was coached into lying on his father. Why would his son do that? What's the motivation behind that, right? And so Melody did the right thing and protected her son from Martell's abuse. Now, the courts will not take custody away from someone for one incident for the most part, right? Unless it's really, really bad, the child's in the ER, broken bones, whatever. Most times they won't do that. So Martell wants to sell the narrative that because the courts pretty much ruled in his favor by allowing him to share custody with Melody of the children, it means that he did nothing wrong. That's what he kept trying to sell. That's why he kept saying the court saw things my way. They saw it my way. And Queen Shiba asked him to clarify, what does that mean? That's a blanket statement. What does my way mean? Because Martell's the type of person who will use the term my way to absolve himself of any wrongdoing. And of course, when Queen Shiba called him out on it, Martell skirted around, snaked around. No, I meant in that particular instance. No, I meant this, that, and the third. And then she said to Martell, well, Melody didn't really file any motions against you. She didn't try to take anything from you. What did you win against her? If she really wanted to hurt you, she would have filed a counterclaim against you, right? And Melody didn't do that. So Martell is using Melody's grace towards him to make it seem as if he was justified in the custody case, right? So Melody did not attack Martell. She didn't try to inflict any harm on him like Queen Shiba said. But Martell is using that to make it seem as if he won against Melody, like Melody was in the wrong. And after stealing $17,000 from Melody a couple of years ago, Martell had the audacity to try to put Melody on the hook for the lawyer's fees or the legal fees that he had accrued by way of this frivolous custody case. So I want you to pay for my stupidity and my irresponsibility and my spitefulness. Even though I stole $17,000 from you and never paid you back, even though you never put me on child support or asked for alimony after I cheated and had a baby, I'm going to not only ask you or expect you to pay for my legal fees, and I'm going to ask for child support. In the very beginning, Queen Shiba asked Martell, what do you want in a wife? What are you looking for in a marriage? And Martell mentioned something very, very interesting. He said, I want someone who's going to be able to provide and protect. Provide and protect. So I want you to provide me with the security and the financial status that I need to trick off on other women, and I want you to protect my image while I'm doing that. I want you to provide security for me, nurturing, support, success, status, hard work, whatever. And I want you to build me up to the point where now when I fuck you over and I disrespect you and abuse you, you'll still protect me from the consequences of my own bad behavior. That is essentially what Martell is saying, what he's asking for, right? He didn't say that verbatim, but that's what he expects. I want a woman to protect me and provide for me. Melody was a protector and a provider for Martell. Melody has BDE. Martell does not have BDE. Big penis energy. Okay? Melody has that in spades. And initially when they first met, that dynamic worked out because they were more compromising towards each other. They were trying to build together. And when you are building with your partner, you analyze the strengths and weaknesses and you move accordingly. Martell may have gifts that Melody doesn't have. Melody may have gifts that Martell doesn't have. So they work together initially to use their gifts to build their marriage, their success, their businesses, their family, all this other stuff. At some point though, and this is a very important part of the interview, at some point, Queen Shiba asked Martell, when did you veer off, or something like that? And Martell said, we both veered away from the marriage. We both veered off, right? And when he said that, his face twitched and his mouth kind of sneered a little bit. And he looked down. He was very angry about that. He's very triggered by that still. And I want to explain why for the 50th time. Martell started to feel like at some point that Melody was married to her brand more than she was married to him. She was more interested in being a brand, a career woman, a celebrity, more than she was in being his wife. I said over a year ago that Melody is very 10th house oriented and Martell's very 7th house oriented. So Martell resented the fact that he began to feel like Melody was replacing him with her brand identity, that she sought validation from the public, from media, from social media, instead of her own husband. I said that at some point, Martell felt like Melody checked out of the marriage, which is why she dismissed him, a couple years ago and said, go get a girlfriend. And Martell took that literally. Now, for someone to tell their husband or their wife to go get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, that means that there's a frustration in the relationship. Someone's not happy, right? And Melody didn't mean that literally, but Martell at that point was at the end of the rope because he felt like Melody already had a boyfriend. And Melody's boyfriend was her brand. It was her career. And he felt like she was replacing him with that. This is why he told Marcus in season 2 that Melody wants to be famous. This is why Martell is still triggered by Melody's social media, because he feels like social media is the other man that ruined their relationship. That's what he blames Melody for. And he's still very, very, very angry about that, to the point where he has contempt for her because he feels like she is a fame whore. Essentially, he even said a couple times in the interview, like, I'm sure you're not getting paid enough money for you to be dogging me out like this, right? He told her to calm down with these subliminals on social media and Instagram. It is what it is. Martell does not like Melody's social media presence or her platform or her celebrity, because for him, that's the other man. That's who she was cheating with. And so he found someone who would treat him the way that he wanted Melody to treat him. He found Arion, and he was using Arion to show Melody how he wanted to be the priority in her life. Okay? Now, I've always understood this about Martell since season 1. Always. And I can't get mad at Martell for his own feelings. He's entitled to feel the way he wants to feel. I can't tell people how to feel what they feel, right? I'm not in Martell's marriage. I don't know what's going on within their relationship. It is what it is. The problem I've always had with Martell was how he deliberately tried to destroy Melody. He tried to burst her bubble on purpose. Melody was not intentionally trying to sidestep Martell. She wasn't trying to hurt him. As a matter of fact, in her mind, she's like, the more successful I am, the more opportunities I'm bringing to our whole family, the more money we can make, because that was the plan that they made. So Melody did not have bad intentions by focusing on her brand, but Martell felt slighted by that. He felt like she was more concerned about, people liking her on social media than her relationship with him. He even told Dr. Heavenly over a year ago that Melody would be in bed on Facebook and social media, and he would be like, yo, I'm here, right? So he felt like Melody had checked out of the marriage by way of social media, by way of seeking attention and validation outside of the marriage. And this is why Arion in seasons 1 and 2 kept saying that Melody sold her family or sold out her family or husband for fame and fortune. She kept saying that. That's how Martell felt. That's what Martell was telling her, that Melody was willing to sacrifice her family and her marriage for the sake of fame and fortune and celebrity. And at some point, Martell began to feel like Melody was desperate to do anything for fame, even sell him out. He had developed such a contempt for her that he stopped trusting her, and he felt like she was working against him by being on social media, because social media, again, was the other man, right? So you're so in love with social media, you're willing to betray me, your husband, and sell your story for likes and clicks and views, all this stuff. Now, initially, Martell may have been on board with Melody building her brand because he was going to benefit from that financially and socially without having to do the work. But at some point, because he's 7th house oriented, he wanted more interpersonal, intimate relationship with his wife. And Melody is more masculine. She's more extroverted, okay? Masculine does not mean penis. I'm talking about the way her energy is directed. Her energy is directed outward, forward, aggressively, passionately. Martell's energy is more inward. He's more feminine. He's more receptive and reactive, right? Melody's proactive, Martell's reactive. But because Martell's a man, he felt like he should have been in that proactive role. And Melody was kind of, he was cool with Melody playing that position initially because he didn't want to do that. That's not his nature. You can see how timid and insecure and he seemed a bit dejected and self-conscious during his interview with Queen Shiba. And I peeped that from the very beginning. He didn't really want to be there. He's very shy. Melody's the opposite. So initially that was fine. They were peanut butter and jelly. They were Batman and Robin, right? Martell was okay being the sidekick to Melody until he started to feel like the more fame she got, the more celebrity she got, the less invested and in love she was with him. He felt like she was more in love with her career and her fans than him. That's the source of his anger. He's very angry about that to this day. He'll always be angry about that because he feels like she's getting it. She's pretty much living happily ever after with the man she cheated on him with, which is the brand and the career and the social status. And this is why a couple months ago, Marcel was like, in response to Melody saying she felt some kind of way, Marcel was like, if it's lonely at the top, something like that, you're doing something wrong, right? A lot of the cast members feel like Melody is not only bougie, too, because they see the intense drive and focus towards one area of her life, but they do agree with Martell to an extent, and that's why they're still cool with them. Melody has a stellium in Scorpio, and I wouldn't be surprised if she was a Sagittarius or Aquarius rising. She most likely is a Aquarius rising, which would mean that she has a stellium in her 10th house. When somebody has a bunch of planets in the same sign, there's a concentration of energy or focus in that one particular house. Melody has very focused and concentrated energy on her career. And I feel like at some point, Martell felt like Melody had checked out of their marriage. She was going through the motions. I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm having babies, but my heart really isn't here. That's how Martell felt. And he's still very incensed about that. The problem I had was not necessarily Martell being hurt by the situation. The problem I had was the fact that he intentionally tried to ruin his ex-wife. He intentionally tried to inflict harm on her. He wanted her to suffer and break her down mentally to make her into the woman he wanted her to be, which is not right. That is abuse. Okay? I'm not cool with any form of abuse. If you're not happy with somebody, then let them go and leave them alone. You don't have the right to try to punish somebody for being who they are, even if you're benefiting from their success, right? Melody's success was benefiting everybody financially. She was building her brand. She was becoming more famous. That made Martell look good. He was okay with it to that extent. But then when it cuts into his personal time, or when he starts to feel like she's like pulled away from him emotionally, energetically, and psychologically, she's more focused on, again, building her brand, external validation, her fans, her business contracts. Like, she's more in love with that than him. That's when he had a problem. And so that's why he identifies with Arion, because she's his safe space. She agrees with him. She agrees that Melody was too selfish to be married to Martell. And as I said before, she was punishing Melody. Martell allowed Arion to punish Melody for breaking his heart. That's why when Queen Shiba asked him, why didn't you ever check Arion for what she was doing? Why didn't you ever, pull his side and say, calm down, right? And he justified what she was doing by saying that, well, people were talking about her, so she has the right to defend herself. Martell identifies with Arion more than he does with Melody, because Arion is the underdog, right? She's hated, she's maligned, she's, attacked by Melody's fans and other people, right? So Martell feels like he's in the same position as Arion, and she's a source of comfort and understanding for him. That's why he told Queen Shiba that it wasn't just about the sex. It was about the communication, it was about the connection, the fact that she put him on a pedestal, or she made him central to her life. He wanted someone to focus all of their attention on him. But if you're married to somebody with a successful career, more than likely that won't happen. People who are career driven, who are entrepreneurs, their love is their career and their business. You have to love it to be successful at it. That's the way it works. This is why so many women married to doctors and lawyers and, celebrities even, they end up feeling neglected because they can see the love and the passion that their partner has for the work that they're doing, and it's not reflected the same way in their dynamic. This is one of the reasons why I think Tyrese's wife divorced him, because he was like, they were spending all this time together and and she just filed for divorce for him because she felt like he didn't love her as much as he loved his career. The level of passion and engagement and excitement that people have for their career is rarely, if ever, the same as the passion and the love they have for their partner. It's not the same kind of energy, right? It's not expressed the same way. So the satisfaction you get from your spouse is different from the satisfaction you get from your career or your business. It's two different energies. One's 7th house oriented, one's 10th house oriented. And they're in a square astrologically, which means it clashes. They're not compatible. So I can't love my wife as much as I love my career. It's not going to work. Something has to give. Okay? If you ask any successful businessman, musician, entertainer, celebrity, something has to give. You cannot have it both ways. Okay, either you're going to focus on your career and your marriage takes a backseat, or you'll focus on your marriage and your career takes a backseat. You can't do both. And Melody was trying to juggle both, but she could not do both. It's impossible to do it. She may have done it as far as like cooking and cleaning for the girls and, you know, doing the household duties and having sex with Martell, but energetically, her heart was not in the marriage the way that Martell wanted her heart to be in the marriage. And he resents her for that to this day. He's very angry with her. For him, her social media platform and her success is a reminder that she was cheating on him the whole time, right? You've been cheating on me with this career man the whole time, right? And you threw me under the bus to be with him. So I'm seeing you on social media talking about whatever, and it's like he feels like whatever she does is a subliminal jab to him, because a large percentage of her followers are fans of the show. And they started to follow her and support her after they saw how she was being abused by Martell. So even if Melody posts an innocent, benign message, right? The fact that she looks happier without Martell makes him feel like she's attacking him. Because again, the growth of her platform can be attributed to her marital issues with Martell. So it doesn't matter what she says or does, right? Because again, Martell feels like she built her fame and her popularity off of his demise and his failures and his abuse. So it, you know, even if she has an innocent post, the fact that she looks like she's winning is a testament to how bad Martell was as a husband. That's how he feels about it, and that's how it's perceived subconsciously. Okay, Martell feels like Melody's fans love her because they hate him. Martell feels like her fans love her despite him. Okay? And he's still very sore about that. He's angry. I keep saying that because his mouth curled up and his eyes went down. His energy just went. He's so hurt by that. And he told Marcus this in season 2. She wants to be a celebrity. And again, I can't fault Martell for feeling the way he feels. Martell and Melody have Venus square Venus in their natal charts. And Venus square Venus is a clash of values and ideals, right? And the things that we hold dear to us, what we want to hold on to. Martell's value system clashed with Melody's value system. And I said over a year ago that they both loved each other selfishly, meaning that they loved each other the way that they wanted to. Melody did not love Martell the way that he wanted her to love him, and Martell didn't love Melody the way that she wanted him to love her. So it became a matter of, what are you complaining for? I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, right? I'm taking care of the kids, I'm having the babies, working together, I'm coming home every night, even though I'm cheating. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. They were both going through the motions because their values were clashing, okay? And even Melody mentioned after her divorce, like over a couple years ago, she talked about feeling relieved because Martell wouldn't be able to nitpick her every day anymore, right? Martell started to attack Melody and nitpick at her again because he wanted to burst her bubble. He felt like Melody was getting a big head, right? When you become a celebrity in a marriage, you're living in your own bubble. You're in your own world. And Melody, having a stellium in Scorpio, has the ability to ice people out or isolate herself within a bubble, right? So I'm here, but I'm not really here. I'm here physically, but emotionally, mentally, I'm somewhere else. In my opinion, that is how Martell felt about Melody. Have you ladies ever dated a guy and you felt like he was leaving you or cheating on you or he wasn't as interested? So you try to use sex to keep him interested and you wanted more sex from him because you were feeling insecure about his attention towards you or his desire to be with you. Martell wanted more sex from Melody because he felt like she was slipping away. And for him, that was a way for them to remain connected emotionally. That's what he thought would keep them connected emotionally, if he kept having sex with her. And she kept doing it because that was her duty as a wife. But I feel like he was using sex to overcompensate for an emotional disconnect. Because again, he felt like Melody had built a bubble around herself with her brand and her fame and her popularity. And she was more in love with her accomplishments than him. I said this more than once, so it's not a mystery, right? But again, Martell is so defensive about that. He's so ashamed of that. He can't be honest about that. He should just say, you know what? I felt like I was competing with my wife's fame and popularity. I felt like she loved her career and her brand and her success more than me. I felt like she sought validation from her supporters more than her own husband. I felt like she was willing to sacrifice her whole family for the sake of fame and fortune. Okay? Again, the 10th house is the opposite of the 4th house of home and family. If you're 10th house oriented, you're not 4th house oriented. You may be there physically, but emotionally and psychologically, you're not invested in that space. Your mind is elsewhere. As a matter of fact, your home becomes an office. Okay, your home becomes a place where you work as well. You bring your work home with you in a sense. I think that Melody did the best she could. She was giving 85%. She was trying to juggle too many things. It was like she was in a tug of war with herself and her husband, her marriage, right? The 1st house is opposite the 7th house for a reason. When you get married, your identity becomes one. You become one person, okay? And hopefully you're married to a person who you want to merge with, who you respect enough to sacrifice for. I think at some point, Melody and Martell both lost respect for each other because their value systems were different. Melody's value systems, again, were oriented toward the 10th house, and Martell's value systems were oriented toward the 4th house. And there was a clash. There was conflict, there was contention, there was, a disconnect there. And Martell used Arion to fill the void. He mentioned this to Queen Shiba again. She was there to fill the emotional void that he was experiencing with his wife because her heart was somewhere else. That is what he felt like. But instead of saying that, he's like, you're not satisfying me. You're not submitting to me. You're not giving me oral sex or whatever. Subconsciously, that was a symbol or metaphor for somebody submitting to their husband. Someone sacrificing their power, their pride, and their ego for the sake of someone else. He wanted her to be that way. At the same time, though, they would not have been successful as they were if Melody were like that. So he was in conflict too. He wanted her to be successful and popular and famous because that made him look good by proxy. But that comes with a caveat. There is a catch-22. Moon square Venus. Venus square Venus. I'm getting what I want, but what I want doesn't make me feel secure, right? I have a beautiful wife who's career-oriented, successful, confident, beautiful, all this stuff. But her fame and her success and her celebrity is making me feel like I'm losing my wife and I don't have a place in her heart the way I used to. And again, I'm not saying that Melody didn't love Martell, but I think Martell did not want to compete with her career and her brand. He wanted her to love him the way that she loved her career accomplishments. Okay? Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Melody has an Aquarius ascendant rising sign. Very friendly, very outgoing, very jovial, very gregarious, and that would put the stellium of Scorpio in the 10th house of career. Melody feels happy and fulfilled with her career. She's not happy and fulfilled only with her marriage. A marriage is like icing on the cake, but she feels happiest when she's conducting business, when she's doing, professional stuff, okay? Not to say she doesn't love her children, she does. But again, there's a stellium here. So there's an intense focus on one area of your chart. The facts are the facts, okay? Now, if Melody is an Aquarius ascendant, that would put Jupiter on her ascendant, which makes her very, very lucky, especially when it comes to social interactions, networking, community, and social media. That is where she's supposed to be focusing her energy on. And she finds success and comfort in that area of her life. But again, the 1st house is opposing the 7th house. And her Sun, Moon, Venus, Saturn, Pluto, and the South Node are square Jupiter. Squares represent lessons that have to be learned. There's an imbalance of energies. So there could be excess in one area and deficits in another area. Again, I'm not saying Martell was wrong for feeling the way he felt. The problem that I have and many other people have is that he went on a campaign to destroy the woman who was the foundation of his success, of his family, of his life. Melody was doing 85% in spite of everything, but he wanted her heart. And I understand that's the issue for him. It's not funny. But yeah, his Venus is square her moon. So moon square Venus is, again, the things that he valued does not make her feel secure or needed. The things that she needs goes against his value system, moon square Venus. So she needs whatever she needs, right? Her career, her brand, her success. and that clashed with his value systems as a traditionalist. But how are you a traditionalist if you want a woman to protect and provide for you? Martell doesn't know his ass from his elbow. He's confused. He's double-minded. He liked the security and the prestige and the finances that Melody brought to the relationship. He loved it. But at the same time, it made him look small potatoes. It made him look inadequate. Melody triggered his inadequacy because Martell has Pluto square his sun. He wants to have power. And he was okay with Melody having power as long as she gave her power to him. Once she got so big and famous and popular, and she didn't need him as much anymore for that validation, in his mind, he started to bring her down to size and to take the power back from her by way of abuse. That's the issue that I have. One of the issues that I have. Again, I didn't want to rage watch the interview. Like, I didn't come to the interview with the purpose of like saying, Martell, you ain't shit, you wrong about everything. I sought understanding. I didn't learn nothing new. Just confirm what I already said. But I kind of did learn that he's still very upset about that. That shit hurts him to the core. And this is why he thinks that Melody is using her platform to throw subliminals at him. And it kind of, I can see why he would say that, because a lot of her supporters don't like Martell. So it's like, it's not Melody's fault per se, but it's kind of like, I'm doing better without you. I'm in a better place because I got rid of you. That shit hurts. It does. Let me get to my notes. Okay. Martell identifies with Ariane, which is why he defends her. He understands why she's upset with the cast and with Melody, because he's upset for the same reason. Martell mentioned trying to bring Ariane onto the show. No. I would have personally went on a campaign to make sure that didn't happen. Why? Ariane is like Martell in the sense that she's not very business oriented. Ariane did not monetize her infamy in a way that she could have. She may not have felt like that was the morally right thing to do, even though she's amoral. So Ariane doesn't want to be famous in that way. She wants to be infamous, but not necessarily well known. She's not very career or entrepreneurial minded. And that's what Martell likes about her. But it's also what he doesn't respect about her at the same time, because he wants someone to protect and provide for him. Ariane can't protect Martell. She's not strong enough. She can't provide for him. She doesn't have enough resources. Ariane makes Martell look bad, so she can't protect him with a fucked up image herself. She makes him look worse. So now I can't even be with you, because being with you is not protection for me. I'm going to be attacked even more by being with this woman. So he's not going to marry Ariane, probably at all, until she fixes her image and her brand. He said Ariane needs to be on the show to defend what? And I'm like, what does she need to defend? Why aren't you using the show to defend Ariane? Why aren't you going on social media with her to help her state her case? Defend what? Sleeping with a married man? And Queen Shiba was like, what does she need to defend? Martell wanted to bring Ariane on the show to make him look like the good guy, like he was right in what he was doing. He wanted her to advocate on his behalf. That's what he went on the show for. Melody's wrong, I'm right. That's insane to me. But I knew he was going to try to get her on the show. And even though I'm a small content creator and I don't have that many subscribers or followers or views, I was going to make sure that did not happen. Come on her show for what? She has her own YouTube channel. Her interview with Tasha K got more views than Melody's interview with Tasha K. And every time she's had the opportunity to speak, she ain't saying shit. She's not saying anything that we don't know or we haven't figured out. So no. Let me see. Martell conflates Melody with her fans. Yes, he sees her as an extension of her fans. So he sees her fans as an extension of her, which is why he has a problem with her social media. I talked about that. Martell blames Melody for her fans attacking him, even though that's not what she's asking them to do. I mentioned that some of the stands can be bullied. I talked about not bullying Martell on my channel from the very beginning. I didn't want to do that. It can be perceived as bullying if you are just dead set on attacking somebody just because they show up, right? Martell deserves to be disrespected for what he's done to his wife. But there's a fine line between bullying and holding somebody accountable for their behavior. And it's gotten to the point where some people are going to blame Melody for what her fans are doing. And I mentioned a few months ago that you don't have to hate Martell to show support to Melody. I don't hate Martell. I hate what he's done. He raises my blood pressure and he aggravates the fuck out of me. I felt myself rolling my eyes like, oh my God, bro, you're deflecting like crazy. We can see you're lying. We can see you. What you mean? Martell was banking on Queen Shiba not reading the entire legal document. So when she started referencing some points from the document, he was like, oh, you read that? What you mean did I read that? It's like, yo, don't talk to me like I'm stupid. Do not talk to people like they're stupid. We can see what is going on here. We know what's going on, bro. We can see when you're lying. Martell has tells when he's lying. Like I mentioned before, he clears his throat, he deflects, he scratches behind his ear, looks around, looking for help and some answers. Like, we know when you're lying. It's all right. Tell the truth and that's it. But he's very defensive and he feels like the world is out to get him. I will say that Martell has some PTSD too. Why wouldn't he have PTSD? He has hundreds of thousands of people who don't like him, right? He lost his family. He lost his home. He lost his wife. He lost his businesses. He lost his money, his prestige. He's going through trauma also. But the difference between Martell and Melody is that he's a source of his own problems. So there's less sympathy for him. But I can acknowledge from his countenance that he's been traumatized too. And he was like, oh, so you're against me too? I felt a little bit bad for him when he said that because he reminded me of like a wounded animal or someone who's like so traumatized that they don't trust anybody. And again, Martell has pretty much invited this type of response from the public because of his behavior. But I don't like seeing people traumatized like that. He seems just rattled, insecure, defensive, ashamed, all that stuff, but also very angry at the same time. No one can honestly look at Martell and say that he has not been negatively affected by this divorce on an emotional and psychological level. He feels bad because he lost everything. Like he mentioned earlier that in the interview that he was in love with the relationship that he and Melody had. Okay? And that's why I mentioned more than one time that he will be chasing after Melody's ghost forever. The woman he dates will be competing with Melody's memory. They were both young, first everything. First marriage, first experiences, first children, first home together, first successes. Men are very attached to those memories for the most part. They are, especially feminine men, Capricorns, Cancers, Tauruses. Men who are earth signs or water signs are very sentimental. And Martell's a very sentimental person. Even though what he did was wrong, doesn't mean that he doesn't have any feelings or emotions. This means that because of his personality disorder, that I believe he has, he doesn't know how to manage his feelings properly. And so he does things that are contradictory to what he's looking for. He does things that are in conflict with the outcomes he's looking for. So I love my wife, but I'm going to hurt her to show her that I love her. That kind of mess. Like, what? Okay. So yeah, I felt bad for him in that moment. He was like a wounded animal. He was very easily triggered, as if he can't trust anybody. He feels like he can't trust anybody. So again, even though I don't like what Martell has done, I don't like seeing people suffer regardless, right? And I get angry with Martell because he's the source of his own problems. So it's like conflicting. It's like, damn, I feel bad because you're a human being and I don't want to see you suffer, but at the same time, you're an idiot. It's your fault. So why are you complaining now? Your wife begged you for years to stop doing what you were doing. At some point, Martell and Queen Shiba talked about Sheree in the very beginning of the conversation. I'm going out of order. And Martell was like, oh, we cool, we friends, we kick it. There's no titles here, right? There's no labels. And he mentioned something like, I'm pretty much a black and white kind of guy. Like either you're dating or you're not. Otherwise, you'll end up dating someone for 5 years and there's no commitment. So he's not going to claim Arion on anybody until he is in a serious commitment with them. That was T for all you women who were dating men who refused to give you a label. For all you women who are in situationships with men because they're married or have another girlfriend or whatever's going on, they're not ready yet. Listen to what he said. He said that if there is no clear delineation about the status of a relationship, you have no relationship. You'll pretty much end up dating or playing around for 5 years. That is how long he was messing with Arion when he was married to Melody. If you guys remember, as soon as Melody broke up with Martell, Martell broke up with Arion. So she was his girlfriend as long as he was married to her. Now that he's not married, she has no status for him. She has no value to him other than emotional comfort and security and familiarity and protection, in the sense of like, she'll accept him at his lowest. He can abuse her and she'll still stay. That's what he wants. He wants someone to be loyal to him no matter what. Just because someone loves you unconditionally does not give you license to disrespect them, to violate them, to force them to suffer, to prove their love to you. You don't have the right to do that. I don't care how much you think you love somebody, that is abuse. Okay? Back to my notes. Martell thinks that Melody's entire social media platform and her brand is an affront to him. I mentioned that earlier. No matter what Melody does on her platform, no matter what she says, no matter what she talks about, he feels like she's throwing subliminals at him because a lot of her celebrity is attached to the show Love and Marriage Huntsville. So he feels like she built her brand and she became successful because of the demise of their marriage. That people would not like Melody, or they would not be as fond of her or supportive of her had she not left him. So her fame and her celebrity and her platform, he feels like, was fertilized with his bones, essentially. I was sacrificed for your fame. I don't think Melody did that intentionally. I think that it was just happenstance. Melody was going to be famous regardless. But the way in which it happened, it irks Martell to this day. And that's why he thinks that Melody's attacking him by even speaking about anything. Period. Anything. Because people associate Melody with Martell's abuse. That's a part of her brand now. If you guys remember in season 2, when Melody and Martell were arguing outside of her house, Martell walked up the hill and she was like, I will not let you ruin my brand. Melody was correct. Martell was trying to ruin Melody's brand. But Martell felt like Melody's brand ruined their marriage. So he was attacking the very thing that he felt divided them. And he used Arion to do that. And Arion was okay with that because she believes that Martell was right. She believes that Melody's a fame whore. She doesn't have the same level of this. She doesn't have the same desire to be famous like Melody. She looks down on that. Like, you want to be famous so bad. They both said this. They both agreed to that. Oh, one more thing. Martell said he didn't learn anything from therapy except how to manage his emotions better and so on. He said he didn't want to go in the first place. Of course, he didn't want to go because he doesn't think nothing's wrong with him. He went because the courts made him go. So that was an L for him. He didn't get the $28,000 that he wanted for Melody. That was an L for him. He didn't get full custody. That was an L for him. And so he kept talking about, they kept seeing things my way, as if Melody didn't have any victories herself. Martell likes to skew the narrative to make it seem as if he's a victim and he's always right. Martell feels like Melody is constantly attacking him with her success, with her fame, with her status, with her money. It's almost like her leaving him was the right choice. That's how people perceive it. And that hurts his feelings. It does. Because to him, he feels like it negates everything that he brought to the table initially. He feels that Melody's current success overrides all of the contributions he made to the marriage initially. Both Melody and Martell agreed that he was very supportive of her. He was cool with that, but I think he wanted her to reciprocate, which I think she did, but that's not who he is. He's not an entrepreneur. He's a homebody, like he mentioned. He's somebody who should be in the home. And there's nothing wrong with being Mr. Mom if that's the arrangement and the agreement. As a matter of fact, Martell would have been a good Mr. Mom if he played his role, because he was still working in the construction business. He was still helping out with their businesses, but his energy should have been oriented domestically. He should have been doing more cooking and cleaning and taking care of the girls here, but because of culture, because of the patriarchy, because of masculinity, he was resentful of that. He wanted the woman to be doing that while at the same time taking care of him. He wanted a mama. He wanted a mommy. I want you to protect me, mommy. I want you to provide for me, mommy. I want you to love me unconditionally, mommy. Mommy issues. Moon square Venus or Pluto opposing the moon. I'm going to say this. Melody did a hell of a job juggling all of those responsibilities, taking care of all those children, doing the domestic stuff, and doing things outside the house. She did I know she's relieved. There's so much pressure on her. And one more thing too. Martell said he has a chef. He has somebody cooking for him. Why? I thought he said Melody wasn't cooking. So if you're such a good father, why aren't you learning how to cook? Not to say that we all should be cooking for our kids, I guess, but I would prefer that would be the case. I would think that's the case. If you want to love and nurture your children, you feed them home cooked food, because your kitchen should be your medicine cabinet. If it's not that, then you'll have children with high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, and so on. So why isn't Martell cooking for his kids? At some point during the interview, Martell told Queen Shiba that he was a good father. Based on what? Based on the fact that we have low standards for fatherhood in our community? Based on the fact that these kids don't know the difference between a good father and a bad father? I'm not saying he's horrible. He could be worse. But the fact that he implied that Martell Jr. or Tank was coached into lying on him, and then Tank was like, Martell daddy was acting like a crazy man, and the fact that he continues to blame Melody for everything that he did wrong while attacking their mother is disgusting behavior. Sometimes people are too selfish to be good parents, and they think that showing up the way they want to show up means that they're good parents. No, our kids need us to love them the way that they want to be loved, not the way that we want to love them. Okay? So Martell has the my way or the highway, what I say goes attitudes towards his children. He's very controlling in that way. I can see that based on the way that they engage with him. You know, they mentioned not having fun with him. It was like a military camp kind of thing. The kids talk about this in season 2 or season 3. Melody told Martell that the kids, you know, have fun with her. And when they go to his house, it's about doing the chores that Melody was doing that Martell doesn't want to do. Laundry, you know, cleaning up the house and so on. It's good to teach children responsibility and how to do chores so that they don't end up like Maurice Jr. That's a good thing. But a lot of times, fathers who don't want to take care of their children, they force them to grow up too soon. They take on responsibilities sooner than they have to because the father doesn't want to do their chores. Something like that, right? He doesn't want to cook for them. He doesn't want to clean for them. So sometimes the oldest daughter becomes the surrogate mother in these situations. The oldest daughter becomes the cleaner, the cooker, the babysitter. That's what ends up happening in a lot of situations where the husband or the father does not want to play his role as the co-parent. That's usually given to the daughter. I'm not saying he's doing that now, but I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. A lot of older daughters are burdened with the responsibility of rearing or helping to rear their siblings, okay? And then they become resentful sometimes. So, all in all, Queen Shiba, in my opinion, did a great job with the interview. She tried to hold Martell's feet to the fire, but he kept slithering away and causing confusion. And I'm like, yeah, this is games. It wasn't her fault, but she tried her best and she asked some great questions that people wanted to know the answers to. And so I think that Martell's going to interview with her again. I mean, it is what it is. I don't expect to learn anything new from any Martell interviews going forward. He's kind of like Arion. It's like you don't know the whole story, and we're like, what's the whole story? And it's the same old bullshit from before. Again, my main takeaway from this interview is that Martell is still incensed about Melody's brand and why their marriage dissolved. He feels like Melody was very selfish. And he's still very triggered and angry about that. That shit pokes at him in a very tender, sore spot. He's still furious with her about that. And so he will allow Arion to do whatever. Oh, one more thing. Sorry. Queen Shiba asked about the plot against Melody to reveal a sex tape. And again, Martell tried to blame Melody for even talking about it. That part really disturbed me and it annoyed me even more so because he was trying to blame Melody for bringing light to the situation and talking about it on her platform as if her talking about it was worse than him actually plotting to do it. He kept protecting Arion as if she would not be malicious enough to put that information out there and share that with, that's disgusting. The fact that she would even have a sex tape of Martell and Melody is absolutely disgusting to me. That's awful. But again, Martell blamed Melody. Martell has so much animosity towards Melody that she can do no right by him or according to him because he blames her for everything. And he, again, feels like she's the reason why they got a divorce because she got too fame hungry. She wanted to be a star. She loved her career more than him. And so he felt like he was forced to cheat. Nobody's forced to do anything. You could have just divorced the woman and kept it pushing. But he wanted to benefit from Melody's brand while abusing her for it. He enjoyed the magazine covers and the interviews and the celebrity and, you know, the resources that came with the newfound fame and success. Because without that money, he wouldn't have been able to trick off on Arion. When a man spends his wife's hard-earned money on a mistress, he hates that woman. He despises Melody. He's so angry with her. It was deeper than the sex thing, right? It was deeper than, oh, she wasn't satisfying me. He really resents her for what he considers, for being what he considers like a fame whore. Like, that's something that is just pressing on his mind. I'm like, damn, he ain't over that yet. But at the same time, you know, her platform did grow because of the show. And I didn't see the chat because I watched the interview after it was posted, after it was streamed live. But from what I gathered, there was a lot of animosity and anger towards Martell in those comments. And, you know, he blames Melody for that to this day, as if like, if it wasn't for you talking about my business, then I wouldn't be attacked right now. But at the same time, if you wasn't doing dirt, you wouldn't have gotten attacked. But then Martell's like, well, if you were not a fame whore, then I wouldn't have cheated in the first place. So it's like a circular loop of bullshit. I really want them to have an open conversation with a mediator like Funky Dineva. Like, have Martell, Melody just like face to face talk to each other honestly about what went wrong. Not necessarily blaming, but talk about how they felt during certain stages of their marriage. Not what somebody did to them, not, you know, them being the victim. No. How did you feel when this was happening? How did you feel when she was focusing on career? How did you feel when he started cheating? How did you feel? Like, just talk about their feelings instead of focusing on what they thought was being done to them, right? So instead of saying, you did this to me, you did that, whatever, perhaps you can say, you know what? When this was going on, I felt like you didn't see me. I felt like my needs weren't being met. Like I wasn't being heard. Like I wasn't special. Like I wasn't important to you. I felt like I was competing with your career. I felt like, you know, you didn't value what I was bringing to the table. You were trying to hold me back. You were insecure. Something like that. Having an honest discussion about feelings versus perceived slights. What you did to me, pointer fingering, all that stuff. That's counterproductive with Martell Melody because both of them get very angry and it's hard for either of them to listen to each other. And to be honest, if Melody confronted Martell about anything and like wanted him to be honest about it, he would deflect and turn it around on her. It's like you can't talk to somebody with a Rubik's Cube brain. Can't. And Martell wouldn't be direct and honest about his feelings. He would deflect and say, well, you did this too. No, answer the goddamn question. So by allowing both of them to talk about their feelings, perhaps they would be less defensive about things. Like when Martell and Melody have arguments, Martell would say something and then Melody would respond emotionally. Melody would say something, Martell will respond emotionally. So it's thoughts versus feelings and thoughts. So it's like they trigger each other by what they say. They need to be in a safe space together, right? Speaking to a neutral third party and expressing their emotions for each other to stop this noise. I'm not saying that they have to do that. It is what it is. I know Martell's a narcissist, whatever. But if they want to turn things around for his brand and Martell wants to receive some sort of closure or they want to get, because I feel like they don't have any closure yet. They don't have any closure because they don't agree to what happened. They both blame each other for their marriage falling apart. Martell knows what he did was wrong, but he still blames Melody for doing the wrong thing. Like, you cannot have a conversation with someone like that. You can't get to the bottom of things when you're speaking two different languages. Before I forget, a few weeks ago, Carlos King did an interview with Martell, and he talked about how Black women let go of their husbands' hands in pursuit of their careers. And he was basically saying that a lot of Black women end up sacrificing their marriages and their relationships in pursuit of external validation by way of their career excesses, their businesses, their financial opportunities. And again, I mentioned that a lot of Black women do this because we have been groomed and conditioned and raised to believe that we do not deserve protection or provision from the men in our community. So a lot of us overcompensate. We work extra hard, we go to school, get our degrees, buy our properties, because we have been taught that Black men don't value us enough to get those things for us or to do those things for us. So we're going to treat ourselves the way that we want to be treated. We're not going to wait for a man to give us the lifestyle that we deserve or that we want. And in most cases, in many instances, many Black men don't believe that Black women deserve to have a luxury lifestyle or a comfortable, safe, successful lifestyle. Many Black men believe that Black women need to suffer or should suffer. We need to pay for the sins of being a Black woman, of not being a status symbol in society, of whatever mother issues they have, and so on. So women like Melody, I'm not saying that she let go of Martell's hand, but women like Melody who are career oriented seek external validation by way of their career, because that is a space where they are given the respect that was denied to them by their fathers, by their boyfriends, by society in general. So it is what it is. All right, guys, I'm gonna leave it there. If you want to order a personal astrology or tarot reading, you can go to my website. I'm also offering now personal coaching sessions. Yay! I'll be discussing that some more in the coming days. But I look forward to reading your feedback. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will speak to you soon.